Good morning, boys and girls. By now you've been preparing well for your First Holy Communion. Mrs. Ramsden and your teachers have gotten you ready for the big sacrament, the greatest of the sacraments in the church, the Blessed Sacrament, the Mass. To receive Holy Communion is quite an honor and quite a privilege. And I'm sure Mrs. Ramsden has explained everything to you, but now I want to speak, if I could, for a moment with your parents. So, moms and dads, I want to speak to you about what is the Eucharist and why it is so important that you follow up after First Holy Communion with a regular practice of the Sunday Mass for your children. So congratulations, parents, you've done a fine job up until now bringing your kids through baptism and first penance, now to First Holy Communion. And what is Holy Communion? Well, let's begin with why does God have signs and symbols and things like that? So why does he have candles and incense and bread and wine and oils and all that sort of thing in general? So we watched the book fall, but what we didn't see was the gravity. And we know that gravity is pulling the book down towards itself, down towards the floor, but it's an invisible force. So the only way we know gravity is in the room is because things do fall or are stuck to the floor. Otherwise they would float. And so it's the effect that gravity has on the physical things that allows us to know about gravity. Through its effects, we can understand what is the nature of gravity. It is also true, parents, that whatever is solid, whatever we call solid, like this altar that I'm standing at or the book I'm patting right now, is less real than what is invisible. For example, the book can only be here at this moment. It can't be here and over there. It can't be here and in Kentucky at the same time. Whereas gravity, because it is less physical, can be throughout the universe. It has a larger range of power of being, so it has more reality, more realty. You know, the word, you see realty in that word real, more property, more extension, if you will. So, the less solid something is, the more real it actually is, the more being it has. So if I were to, for example, you're hearing my voice via the internet, but if I were to speak to you from this altar without this video, no one would hear me. When I translate it into the electronics, I can put my voice out over the radio or over the internet to a million different people at the same time, because it acquires a less physical reality and enters into it enters into a less physical reality. So, it stands to reason, therefore, that the greatest of all beings, God, who is without any limits, cannot be measured, would be completely invisible. This puts God into the category of the gravity or the invisibles, the microwaves, the radio waves, the light waves, all that sort of thing. He has to have an effect on us physically for us to know where he is and what he's doing. And so to do that, he codifies himself in physical realities so that we can grasp what he's doing, see what he's doing, hear what he's doing, understand what he's doing. And to do that, he speaks the universal human language, the language that all of us human beings across the globe speak, and that is the five senses: sight, taste, touch, hear, and smell, incense and candles and oils and things. Now specifically to the Eucharist. We understand why God has signs and symbols, fancy clothes and all that. Well, why does he have bread and wine? So each day, folks, we do something a little bizarre if you think about it, and we do it many times a day, and that is we take something that is non-human and we put it in our mouth and we eat it. We consume other beings. And the reason we do that is so we want to live. We need what they have to keep our life going. In other words, what we're doing is we're asking the cow in the field, the plant, the fish in the water, whatever it might be, to lay down its life that ours might go on. It must die that we might live. You can understand the Eucharist now. The God who lays down his life that yours might go on eternally. And this is why God chose food, because we understand what food is. Food is something, not us, that we take into ourselves and draw out of it all that we need to keep living. And so he says, you know that thing you do with food? Well, now I'm going to put myself into food and draw out all that I am. Hope, love, forgiveness, eternity, infinity, unending life, life itself. Draw that out. And so he puts himself in these signs of bread and wine for us. Bread because it sustains the body. Wine because it rejoices man's heart, says the scriptures. It relaxes his spirit, gives him joy. And so the bread and the wine have those symbols of being food for us. Now, food that is God, and we take out all that God is, and we live by that. Now, another quality of the food is that it needs to be repeated, parents. We have to eat every day. And if we go long enough without food, we will die. And God is saying to us by using food for the Eucharist, it's not a one-time deal. You need to keep doing this along the journey. In fact, one of the titles for the Blessed Sacrament, for the Eucharist, for the Mass, is Food for the journey of life into eternity. And there, folks, it needs to be repeated. And so God has put into his mystery of salvation the Sabbath, the holy day, the day in which we renew our energies in God so that we can continue the journey from Monday to Saturday in God, with God, through God, not disconnecting ourselves. Because if we go a long time without Holy Mass, or say without confession and things, slowly what's going to happen is just like we go a long time without food, our spirits will begin to atrophy, they'll begin to die. And so the importance of the Sunday Mass, why God has the Sabbath, because it's something that needs to be repeated for us. Keeping that in mind, also think of it this way. So imagine that you're married and your husband and you have been married for a few years now, but your husband never says hello to you, or your wife never says good morning to you, or goodbye when you go to work, or whatever it is. And this goes on. Your husband stays out all night long if he wants to, never comes home once in a while, maybe Christmas, maybe Easter, he's home for the... Would you really believe him when he says, I love you? You say, I don't think so. You're never around, you never speak to me, you never do things with me, you never care about me. I was sick all week and you were gone where were you? You would begin to doubt that person's love of you, even though they keep saying it. Well, how do you think God feels when we keep saying we love you, but we never stop by church, we never visit him on Sundays? Or think of it this way. You prepare every year a beautiful anniversary meal for your wedding day, and your husband or your wife never shows up for it. Wouldn't you be disappointed? The candles are out, the meal is cooked, it's quiet, you have the kids with grandma or with their aunts, and you're going to sit down to a beautiful meal, and you invited your husband to this, and he doesn't show up. And he comes home, oh, I forgot, oh, I was busy, oh, you know how much work got to me, there was a sporting game. All the excuses we give to God for not getting the Sunday Mass. How do you think he feels? Brothers and sisters, parents, that's what we say to God when we don't bring our kids to Sunday Mass. And we deprive them of the food necessary for the journey, the food of life, the food of hope, the food of forgiveness. The next thing I would like to talk about is the importance of the sacrifice. So God has codified himself. His real presence is here. This is Jesus. But not just Jesus in any way. It is a sacrificial meal. So we're offering up the sacrifice of the Son of God for the forgiveness of sins to the Father. And we're allowed to participate in that through the mystery of the Eucharist, through God's codification of himself into the physical. Now, back to our food thing. If I kill the cow in the field and chop it all up and everything, but don't eat it, will it benefit me at all? No. I have to eat the food in order to get the benefits. Does it do any good for Christ to die on the cross and to rise again on Easter Sunday for me not to participate? I don't get any of the benefits. You have to participate in the sacrifice if you want the benefits of the sacrifice. Keep that in mind also, parents. I'm trying to reinforce again, quite honestly, the importance of Sunday Mass and why the church expects you not only to bring your children through Holy Communion, but to continue to bring them to church every Sunday. And remember, those excuses, basically they mount up to, I don't love you, or you're not that important to me, or I love you, but not as much as I think, or not as much as you were hoping. So with that in mind, parents, I think I've done a well enough job in speaking to you about the importance of what is the Eucharist and the importance of the Eucharist. So why God has the Eucharist? He's invisible. He wants you to know where he is and what he's doing. What is it? It is the sacrifice of Christ, codified in food, because we need it to live forever. God bless.